Right. Well, as Bridget said, I'm going to talk a little bit about fruitful gap years, making the most of that opportunity. I'd say, first of all, if anybody has a chance of having a gap year, go for it. It's a brilliant opportunity. But before I say any more about that, I would say that now, wherever you're at in your training, or if you've got students who are young, be praying into their futures, be praying about what you can do in your time. I know that the prayers that people prayed for me throughout my education meant that when I got to my gap years, there were doors that were open because of those prayers. So really start praying into what you can do in that time. I'm going to sort of talk about three areas. Reasons to take a gap year, planning your gap year, and then I'm just going to talk a bit about my personal experiences in my gap years. So, some reasons to take a gap year. I spoke to quite a few people while I was thinking about this talk and asked them what they'd consider to be a good reason for taking a gap year and some of the benefits you can get from it. And interestingly enough, everybody I spoke to said that the one thing that's the best is that it's an opportunity to grow, to push yourself, to spend some time outside of your comfort zones, which might sound a little bit scary, but it's a brilliant opportunity for that. It's a good opportunity to test yourself. Growing up in a Christian environment, whether it's homeschooling or in a Christian school, that's a wonderful, secure environment in which to grow and develop, and a gap year is a great opportunity to step outside of that a little bit and to see what you believe, to really think about why you believe it and to see how that affects the way that you live your life and the choices that you make about your life. It's a good opportunity to try something that you think you might be interested in, whether it's a job, a specific area that you think you'd like to go into at university or as a career. It's a good opportunity to test that out and to see practically how you feel doing it. It's a good opportunity to travel. I've done some travelling, my brothers have travelled. It's a great time for that. It's a good opportunity to earn some money, which is very useful as you move on to the next stage. Universities are very keen to take people who have had some experiences. They're not worried at all about if you've had a few years between school and university. They're excited about people who have got hold of ideas and opportunities and made the very most of them. So don't worry at all about universities thinking, oh, hang on, they've had a bit of time. Also, for future employers, if you go on to work after your gap year or if you go to university, when employers are looking at your CV and what you've done with your time, if they can see that you've gained experience in areas, they're thrilled with that. It gives you sort of an extra edge when you're applying for jobs later on. And in a gap year, you can learn so much about yourself, who you are, how you relate to new people in different situations. It's such an opportunity for growth. It is thought sometimes that if you have your time in school and then a year or so break and then go back to studying again, it can hinder your studying because you've had a gap. But from personal experience, and my two older brothers, they had gap years, and all my friends at university, none of us struggled with the issue of studying and then doing something else for a while and then going back to studying. It wasn't a problem at all, so don't let that put you off. Okay, planning your gap year. It can be extremely exciting and it can be quite daunting. I finished school when I was 16, so I was very young. And I woke up the morning after my graduation and I went, oh, help. It's a big world and I'm very small and I have no idea what I want to do. So again, pray into it now, whatever stage you're at. Keep praying into it because that can take away some of that edge of, oh my goodness, I do not know what I'm going to do. Be talking with people around you, teachers, parents, friends. Talk about things that you're interested in. Consider something that you'd like to do. If there's a particular job, like I was saying earlier, that you're interested in, think about that. Think about if you know anyone who works in that area or is in any way linked to someone who works in that area, and talk to them about it. Ring people up, arrange to go for meetings with people, just to chat about the area that you're interested in. When you've been in school, you often have ideas of what you want to do, and in your gap year you can try out some of those. And oftentimes the contacts that you have with people are the very best ways of being able to get involved with things in your gap year. I spent a year as a personal assistant for my uncle, who's an architect, because I thought that was the line that I wanted to go down, and he was able to offer me a job. Now, people might not necessarily be able to offer you jobs, but they can give you ideas and suggest things and talk through the topics that you're interested in. And it might give you some idea of, oh, actually, hold on, that's not what I thought it was at all, I'm not going to do that. Or it might encourage you more to move on to the next step of applying for job opportunities and so on. If you're looking at travelling in your gap year, there are lots of organisations, Christian organisations that you can travel with. Their information's all available on the internet, so that's a good way of looking at travelling. Also, speak to people in your churches, in your schools, who might have friends who are missionaries abroad. A lot of people I know have travelled. They've travelled on their own, and then they've met up and stayed with families abroad who they know, and they've gained some brilliant experiences living in really local areas with local families in different countries abroad. So that's a good opportunity if you want to travel. Bear in mind that travelling is expensive, and while you're travelling, extra costs always seem to come up somehow. So oftentimes people work for 6 months and then travel for 6 months. So think about planning out your whole year. It might be worth doing a certain amount of time in a job that you think you might be interested in, and then spending a chunk of your time travelling. So talk about it with the people around you. Get input from people who are a bit further on in their life walk than you are, and see what ideas come up. Get excited about it. It's a good time when you can try things that are so different and new to anything that you've ever done before. Okay, some of my personal experiences. I actually had 3 gap years. Because I finished school when I was young. I just turned 16. I didn't feel ready at all to sort of leave home in terms of going off to university or anything like that, and it probably would have been quite tough to get into university at 16. So my first year I worked, like I said, for my uncle in an architect's firm, so I spent some time in London working on projects he was doing there, and some time more locally near to Swindon. It was probably the most painful year of my life. I had no idea what I was doing. I was suddenly in charge of accounts and doing VAT reports, and I was like, what's VAT and things like that. I was just completely clueless, and I was ordering things for massive housing projects, and he'd talk about, we need oak flooring in square metres, and I was like, okay, I don't know what you're talking about. It was really tough. I used to go home, as my dad would tell you, bawling my eyes out on many occasions, saying, I'm not going back to work, that's it, I quit. As he was family, it wasn't quite as easy to quit as it might have been otherwise. But I did see the year through, and it's probably the year in which I've grown the most in my life. It was painful, but when I look back on it now, I don't regret for 1 minute having done it. It pushed me out of every comfort zone I might have had. I was working with a whole collection of people I didn't know, and I like being with people I've known for years. That suits me nicely. They were all a lot older than me. I was just turning 17 at the time. So it was a big challenge, but it was great. So don't be afraid. If there are situations that you think you might want to have a go at, don't let fear stop you. Do really go for it, push through, and when you've committed to something, see it through, because that helps you later on. There have been many times since then when I've wanted to quit on things, and I've looked back and said, no, I can do it, I saw that through, and I will see this through as well. So go for it. And if you've got people around you as a support network, do listen to what they're saying. My parents were really encouraging me not to quit, and everything within me wanted to. But I'm so grateful now, I wasn't at the time, but I am now for what they told me, to keep going with it and to see it through, because it will make a big difference later on in life. I spent a year at college doing a business administration course, because that was the area I thought I wanted to go into. It was quite good fun. It wasn't quite as intensive work as school, and I got my qualification at the end of that. After those 2 years, I decided I didn't actually want to do anything to do with business or personal assistance or anything at all, and I completely changed my degree I was going to do at university. I was going to be doing business management, and I ended up doing childhood studies. I realised that working with children really was my passion, and I missed it so much in the times when I was working in the business world. So then I had another year where I spent some time teaching, and I spent a lot of time nannying for a family, and I absolutely loved it. It was an amazing year. It was much easier than the previous years. I didn't grow as much through doing it, because it was something that I just enjoyed doing. But it was much more enjoyable for me as a year, and it helped me realise that that was where my heart was. The other year I'd grown loads, and it had been a wonderful experience, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. And I'm thrilled that I had that opportunity, because otherwise I would have gone to university, I would have done business studies, and that would have been fine. God would have used it. But now I've got a degree in childhood studies, and I'm just really excited about where that's going to lead me in the future and the doors that that's going to open up. So gap years they're such a good opportunity. You might come out at the end of it knowing, yes, that's what I've wanted to do all my life. Now I've had some experience, and that's definitely where I want to go. Or like me, it might completely change your ideas of what you want to do. But both things are really worth going for. They're worth trying it and seeing what happens, seeing how you feel at the end of it. Like I said, my gap years weren't stress-free. They were an interesting time. When I was 19, I then went off to university. But my gap years, they really gave me an opportunity between being at home and leaving home to really grow in who I am, so that when I got to university, I could face the different situations, the different people, and I was confident knowing who I was, what I believed, how I acted because of what I believed, the stands I made, why I was making them. My gap years gave me such an opportunity to experience that to the full. So if you have an opportunity for a gap year, go for it, make the most of it, be praying into it now, and enjoy it. Try out new things, get excited. There's a whole world to explore, and a gap year is a great opportunity to start doing that. So there we go. Thank you very much.